What up, guys? So real quick before we start, I'm going to give you guys a little overview of all the parts that we're using in this video to install into the 2JZ we're going to be working on in this thing. So just hold on 1 second. I'm going to do a quick little B-roll of what's going on. We'll go ahead and get the video started. Alright guys, so check this out. This is a fully pocket ported head. Got all the bowls all cleaned up and all that stuff all oversized a bit. So we can't wait to get this in on Jair's fully built 2JZ GE setup we're building for his is300. Super excited about this. This has been all cleaned up, so we're gonna get to step 3 of the build right now. Welcome back, Sideways fam. We're back again today with another video, and today we're going to be doing something really cool that I haven't yet done in a lot of my videos. As you saw the video before, or if you haven't, I will link it in the description of this video at the bottom. We did a full disassembly of a 2JZ GE engine for our buddy Jair. Well, we ended up getting our head studs in stock this week, and we finished building the engine. So we've done a fully built 2JZ GE engine. I've done the head. I've put valve springs and retainers in the head. I've re-shimmed the head. I've also went ahead and sent the head out. Head as well port and polished. So we went ahead and did a small pocket port on this one. I didn't do a full race port, only for the fact that I want to do kind of increments of this gradually. The last car that we did that was built by somebody else as far as engine internally, but assembled by us and put in the car by us, did about 800 and something, 20 something or 30 something horsepower from what I believe the dynos on the wall. There's been a couple of videos we talked about it as well, where the car did amazing. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to go ahead and, after the block is assembled, go ahead and reassemble the whole entire engine. The process that I'm going to do to get it all down. I'm going to be torquing the ARP head studs down. I'm going to be using the metal head gasket from Tomei. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of preferences of what they like to use. I use my own stuff. I mean, I'm in no way saying that I'm doing better or they're doing better than I am. I just have my processes of how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to kind of walk you guys through everything that was done. All finished before it came to being this kind of a product. I'll walk you through everything that is going to be done, and we'll see if we can get all this into one video of at least assembling the block and the head, and possibly we can get in the timing and all the other stuff too. We'll kind of see what I have time for today. Yeah, so I'm going to spend the next probably 2-3 hours doing this real quick. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. So as we can see right now, this thing is all closed up and sealed up and how it's supposed to be, so that we don't get any contaminants in the engine. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off right now so you can see everything that was done. So as you can see, fully built. We have a set of manly rods in this with ARP hardware. We went ahead and line bored the whole entire engine, because on our last one as well, we didn't do main studs. Main studs are going to be for something over 1,000 horsepower. Never seen any issue with anything from anybody that was done. We didn't knife edge the crank or do anything crazy. It's an OEM crankshaft, just repolished with bearings that are meant for each and every journal, not just a set of standard bearings, and everything's been torqued and marked of where it's supposed to be, so that if anyone messes with anything, we'll be able to tell, obviously. So as far as block, it's already all been hot tanked, it's been decked, it's been cleaned. So we're just gonna have to put an O-ring in here. we're gonna go ahead and seat the pan after we're done. Now let me go ahead and flip the engine over and I'll show you everything else that's going on inside. Now look at this freaking beauty, you guys. Holy crap. Look at the bore on those, you guys. So freaking beautiful. Just so nice. So since it's been sitting and it's been sitting upside down, I am gonna put a little bit of ATF down the cylinders and kind of lube everything before I go ahead and rotate it, because you can see that the crankshaft is not at TDC. It's gonna have to be rotated back in order to get us to where we need to be. When we put the head on, obviously, because we have a big valve spring and retainer and a big cam, it's gonna have to be pretty much spot on when we do it. The block is 100% decked. You can see no scoring, no pitting, no nothing. I mean, this is the proper way of doing it for every single engine that you're gonna be, you know, just doing any kind of work on, you know, that'd be the way to go. We also went ahead and replaced all the freeze plugs in the block as well. So, I mean, this is the same quality you'll get from any of our builds. Obviously, it takes me a lot of time to stick everything to the machine shop and assemble everything. I'm not a big person of going through assembly over the internet and kind of getting into that. I kind of like to have my own space and my own time to do this kind of stuff when I'm by myself and when nobody's here and there's nobody bothering me or calling me or touching me. So, you know, this is just super awesome. I'm super stoked at how this all came out. And as you can see, it's just totally beautiful. Look at that, guys. Wow. This is a 2JZ GE VVTI block. As you can see, it is VVTI port here, 2JZ on the block, and we have no GTE ports on it. So this would be one of the engines that would typically come out of a gs300 or an is300. So let's go ahead and get the head over here, and we'll go ahead and start getting into everything that was done with that. Real quickly too, because I didn't go over this as well, and I wanted to kind of explain this to you too. So as far as rods, these are going to be the Manley H Tough rods. And then as far as the pistons, these are going to be the Wiseco 9:5:1 or 9:6:1 compression ratio. I've got to check the box. But part number is there on the piston if you really want to get super into it. I found that 10:1 compression ratio is really more for like a full drag car. After talking to Jay at Real Street and Gio at Real Street, they kind of were just like, this is the compression ratio you want to go for, 9:5, 9:6. We've used Wiseco before a few times. They're no problems at all. Personally, if it's just for a customer that was going to be doing more somewhere around 800 horsepower, I might have gone with a little bit less expensive rod, only for the fact that it's never going to be used beyond that. So for somebody who's trying to do a budget build, this is a little overdone. I picked a bigger size wrist pin with just stronger everything as well, and kind of upgraded everything totally. So this thing is just beautiful. I'm super excited about putting this on. I'm going to put some gloves on right now. And like I said, we're going to get into the head. So I also have the head in a bag, but you can see the full valve job, how everything's been decked. Everything's been done. So these are OEM valves. The head, I don't know if you can see the CNC or the port in it. Probably I believe it's all in here in the bowl. So I will go ahead and link or put a video in this as well of me looking at it to show you what was done. And then we'll get into the cams after I go ahead and put the head on the engine. So let's go get the head. What we're gonna do right now before we do anything, we're gonna go ahead and go get the head gasket right now. And grab it. We're gonna spray copper gasket spray it. I know a lot of people don't agree and don't do their own thing, but I've been doing metal head gaskets for a long time. Copper gasket spray is the shit. And we have a brand new Tomei head gasket right here, which is what I've always used for all of my stuff since day one. So all my 1.5J stuff, all my everything, they all have these head gaskets in them. They're great, and I usually always have them in stock. So let's go over a head gasket real quick. So you can see the Tomei is right here. Obviously, when you set it on, you have to set it onto the dowel pins, and then you can see like the shape even matches the block. So we have it on the right way. Now, I've always been kind of anal because like obviously it's MLS, so there's multi-layers in here, and it kind of always kind of lifts in certain places. So I mean, it does make it look uglier by spraying all this stuff in here, but this is what I've always used. The head and the block have already been like, you know, decked, and a torque plate's been put on everything when everything's done to make sure it's completely flat. So I'm not really worried about really doing it on this one. I'm gonna do it anyways because like I said, I do it for all my stuff. So I'm gonna do a real light layer when it's like a us just, you know, pulling the head and putting another head on it, and it's not this clean. You want to go put a real thick layer of the stuff on this thing, because obviously there's a bunch of little imperfections in the block and stuff, but in the case of this one, we don't really need to do that much. So I'm gonna spray this real quick, and then we're gonna go ahead and put it on. Okay, so now that we're sprayed, we're good to go ahead and put the head on right now. All right, so I want to show you guys how important it is once you remove the cams to, I mean, everything's already been lubed, obviously. I don't really need to worry about that, but when you're putting in the head studs, what you're gonna have to do, I'll show you what the assembly is real quick so you all know what you're talking about, what you're using. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna have an Allen up here up top on all the ARP head studs you're gonna be using. You're gonna have to find the size. Because of what we're using right now, I believe it's a 3/16. It seems to fit like absolutely perfectly. You're gonna just go ahead and tighten these down until they're kind of snug. Obviously you wanna go ahead and put some of the ARP assembly lube that they give you for both sides of this. And then before you do any of that, you're gonna have to put the washer in the head. So you're gonna just drop the washer down and use your finger or a pick or whatever you can use to get the washer to lay flat in the head, because you can't put the studs all on the head and drop the head down like a traditional engine, just seat it down with all the studs sitting out. You're gonna have to actually put all the washers in, then put the studs through, or you're gonna just run into problems. So that's how I do it. As far as the head, it is a 12.13 that I've always used for all this stuff too. So what I'm gonna do, instead of kind of sticking through this too much with you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and assemble everything real quick, and then I'll start torquing everything down, and then we can get into what else needs to be assembled. Because I mean, beyond just putting some head studs on, spraying a gasket, and setting the head down after the machine shop, there's not really much to it. It's a very simple job. I don't think I need to really go into that much detail beyond what I'm already doing, so. All right, peeps, well, everything is torqued down and set in. Sorry, Drew called me while I was gonna be recording and needed some advice and stuff with the Supra, so I didn't really get a chance to really record that for you guys, but you guys really wanna sit here and watch me do some little torque sequence crap like that. Anyways, cams are gonna go back in right now. You gotta be really, really careful when you're doing this. So what I like to use to get the job done, I use a 1/4-inch ratchet and a mini 10 socket, and I just work down the cam. You wanna just kind of jump back and forth and just kind of evenly tension down the cam down into place. So I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about real quick once I get the cams kind of seated and everything kind of back in order. And I find my ratchet because somehow it's missing right now. But I mean, hey guys, you know, we're gonna be having a short block here in the next few minutes, so let's get it done. Okay, so before we get too deep into the head stuff, I wanna go over a few things down here. So we're gonna put a brand new OEM tailored timing belt on it. We're gonna put a new lower assembly on it, new rear main, new front main. I've already put the O-rings in the oil pump little suction area, because obviously you're gonna have oil that comes in here and comes out there while this is spinning. So this is a brand new OEM Toyota GTE oil pump. So this is what you're gonna wanna use. You'll know it's OEM because it says Toyota on it, unlike the Ison ones and everything too, which are still great, but you just don't wanna make sure that you run you wanna make sure you run a real Toyota one on your stuff. So obviously, you know, you can also see too, you get the crank trigger port here and all the other stuff that you would have on a GTE one. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the front main seal in this right here, lube the front. We're gonna go ahead and bolt that on right now so it can just cure and be on and be done and no big deal. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make sure the crank is at TDC, slide the crank cam collar down the crankshaft, make sure we're lined up, and then I'll go ahead and put the cams on, and we'll keep going with the process of this. Okay, so that's all done. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be talking about the crank collar. So this needs to be lubed, and all you're gonna do is there's two little keyways here on the crankshaft, or Woodruff keys, whatever you want to call it, depending on how anal you are about calling stuff everything. All you're gonna do is you're just gonna tap this down the crank until it kind of basically not quite bottoms out, but bottoms out. So let me do that real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so easy as that. Once you get it past the first little lip right there, it'll just slide on. You can see it just kind of go. And then right here is your timing mark. So this little line right here needs to be on that dot. So we need to still come with the crank over a tiny little bit so that we can make sure that we're lined up, so we can make sure we got to set our cams straight up and down as well. So I just wanted to put that on just to make sure that we were dead on before we do that. And then obviously I got to put the water pump on, the covers, yada, 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 before we can go ahead and put the timing belt and everything on too, and we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm gonna go through with you guys real quick on torquing cams down. I've kind of already seated everything, and they're as close as they're gonna get. When you put the cam in, you wanna make sure it lays as flat as it can in the head, so that when you're actually torquing it down, the cam's not like this trying to go up, because the rollers on the cam are hitting the shim and pushing it down too hard in one place, and then you end up breaking it. So I kind of get it as flat as I can, and as close to TDC as I can when I'm doing this. When I'm talking about using a 1/4 inch, is because you can't really put a lot of torque on this if you're just using your wrist, and that's kind of how I tighten everything down, just like this. Right now I'm very close to seating, so I'm not gonna have to work through it too much for you guys. But basically what I do is, you're gonna start in the center, and you're gonna give it a little bit of love, and then you're gonna move one over, you know what I mean, and kind of just feel it. And as soon as you feel it get any kind of tension on your wrist, you're gonna move. So this one, nice and loose, okay? Okay, got a little bit of tension on that one. Come to this one, you can see this one's still loose. Got a little bit of tension on that one, you move forward. Those ones are cool, and then you're gonna move forward to this one. So you're basically working your way like this, and then like that to go out, just to make sure that you're distributing the pressure evenly. Now, the front's pretty much seated down to where I can see it's gone flat, so I'm gonna work my way back. I'm gonna jump one just to make sure that I'm level here, and then I'm going to go back to get the center of this one kind of going. I mean, I'm sure there's different ways of doing this, but this is just the way that I found has worked the best. I'll always do whichever one is tight and kind of go back one, because it's gonna be, wherever it's the flattest, it's gonna be obviously less tight than where it's lifted. And in the rear, you can see we have a gap here where we're not even touching in the rear right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of tension on this. And as we put tension on this to where it's just barely touching, we're putting some very, very light amount of torque on the wrist, you're gonna see here, now that I've dropped that down, I'm gonna loosen everything else up. So you're gonna work back like from back here and say, hey, look, there's still some way to go on this. This one's still tight because obviously it looks like it's seated, and they should be very even, even as we're doing that. And I mean, I'll just switch hands because I'm obviously right-handed. Left-handed, I have less torque, so I want to work like that. So I mean, right now it's so flat right now, I don't feel sketched out about just going ahead and just going all the way down. But depending on how big your cams are, your cam position is also going to matter on like where the cam has to stay. So what I'm gonna do before I do anything with this is I'm gonna rotate it directly up and down to TDC where the cam has to stay. This has already been shimmed, obviously, for these cams, and has like the proper fitment for everything. And I'm not gonna get too much into that because you can just make the video ridiculously long for how much we have to do today and the small amount of time that I have to actually record today. So this cam's seated right now. I'll go ahead and go into rotating it in a minute and get it where it needs to be. You have a rotating area right here where you can fit a wrench on it, or some pliers, or what monkey wrench, or whatever you're gonna use. So with this one, I don't know if you can see in the video, but you can see, once again, it is tighter up here than it is back here. And I have already put some tension on the rear of the cam there. So I'm gonna start working my way forward. And same thing, just you can see the torque in my wrist. Boom, as soon as it touches, we go. And obviously you can also see where the bolts are that don't have any tension either. You can see it move. These move a little bit too. So same that it's flatter up here. We don't wanna go too tight. We wanna make sure we have a little bit more almost like an air gap in the front than the rear. But I do like to have them basically very lightly touch and then work my way down, as you can see me doing in this. So I'm not gonna stay too much talking about this because obviously you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And then I always jump back and check everything else, because you kind of wanna just apply tension to the cam in different spots and kind of work it all down as one. And because these are 272s, and there are titanium valve springs and retainers in this, if I didn't go over that earlier, I'm sorry, because yeah, I mean, this is a fully built setup for a customer that we're going for, you know, let's just say we're going for 800, but it's gonna be capable of 1,000, maybe more. You know, we'll probably start them out in the 700 club because that's where all the cars are right now, and to break in the engine and everything. We'll go over breaking in engines and stuff like that too later, and our process of how we do that. But basically, valve springs and retainers, it's a single valve spring titanium retainer from Brian Crowder, you know, to suit the cam so we can actually rev the engine up. The gain that you'll have from valve springs and retainers, since I'm already doing this, I'll just talk to you on doing this anyways, is typically all 2JZ stuff, we'll rev them to about 7K. I mean, factory redline for automatic is 6,500. And with proper fueling and everything too, 7K really isn't that too hard on the drivetrain. I've never had a problem with any of that stuff. I have known people to go way above that and do all that stuff too on factory valve springs and retainers, but we don't do that. Rule of thumb of how we do it with rule of thumb of how we do it with our cars that we do, if we put valve springs and retainers in and the redline with a 7,000, we'll go up to 8,000. Just, I mean, you get another 1,000 of RPM, and it's safe to where, you know, we're not going to break anything or worry about anything floating or anything crazy. I mean, you get another 1,000 RPM, and typically if the engine's built, it's going to just keep going and going and going and going and going. So, super excited about this, guys. Let me go ahead and finish getting this torque down and centered up, and I'll show you guys how it's supposed to look when we're done. All right, so we jumped ahead a little bit more. I got more phone calls and I don't stop working ever. So this is bolted down. This is where you're gonna find your timing marks for your cam gears up here. I already put the cam seals in, as you can see back there. Those are already done. Head's all nice and torqued down. So we're gonna go ahead and start getting the cam gears on. And the cam gears are pretty simple. You just pop this on up here, and you'll push down, and there's OEM hardware I have in the box right here. So all you'll do is do this and tighten down the bolt, and then for the VVTi one, you're gonna have a notch where you're gonna line up the notch over here. This will be pressurized with oil pressure. You can see it's lined up right there. And then there's a Allen bolt that I believe is a 10 that you'll blast down, and then you'll have your little cap right here that has another washer and a gasket that'll go on top of that. So let me get those torqued down real quick. You'll have a cap over this, and then pretty much we're ready for water pump and covers and I mean timing belt, and that'll be pretty much the end of this, besides the oil pan, obviously. Okay guys, so we're already pretty lined up and straight on where we're supposed to be. I want to explain this to people though, because everybody seems to have problems understanding VVTi and how to do your timing on these, and everybody panics and does this huge freak out thing about everything. So yes, there are two dots. None of this stuff matters. The line that is here and the line that is here are the only ones that matter. And yes, the gear does move left to right. You know, that makes complete sense. So, but when you're putting your belt on, just make sure that down here, you're lined up, you're good here, and that this mark is all the way to the right. You hold this all the way to the right and dead on this. Slip your belt on right here first. Go across. I mean, it's in the sense of all the stuff that I'm doing right now, we're gonna have a new tensioner in here. So I'm just gonna pull the pin and it's gonna spring it into action, and we're gonna be good to go. And I can rotate the engine and all that good stuff too. So, I mean, doesn't really matter, but this is all you guys need to know. Just rotate it like that, all the way to the right, and line it up with the mark here, and your timing is done. You don't listen to anybody else's other stuff. There's no weird shit or shit's not gonna work. I do it every single time. It works every single time, and no big deal. So, I guess what I'll do is we'll get the timing belt on right now, and the water pump bolted on, and the lower cover bolted on, and I'm just gonna kind of power through getting it all kind of assembled so we're together. And that's pretty much going to conclude this video as far as assembling the engine. I mean, once again, guys, in this combo of what we're doing, it was the Manly rods, Wiseco pistons, BC 272 cams, valve springs and retainers, and head work. We went ahead and did the pocket port to the head. The bottom's been line honed, ARP rod bolts, ARP head studs, Tomei head gasket, race bearings, but they've all been set to the correct measurement of each one. So we didn't just go ahead and use standard bearings. We went ahead and got a specific bearing per each cylinder of how it's supposed to be done. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get all this stuff done. It's kind of redundant, me getting into doing all the little odds and ends stuff for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. When it's all together and done, we will go ahead and probably take a few pictures of it and everything too, as well, of having the TJZB, you know, ready for the car and everything. So until next time, guys,